Want to turn now to the latest on former President Donald Trump's defamation trial in New York.
It's a rigged deal. It's a made-up, fabricated story. And I, frankly, am the one that suffered damages. I should be given money, given damages.
The latest from the former President Donald Trump as we continue following this story. Donald Trump's lawyer on Friday renewed a mistrial request in that New York defamation case against the former president, saying that an advice columnist who accused him of sexually abusing her in the 1990s had spoiled her civil case by deleting emails from strangers who threatened her with death. To talk more about all of it, want to turn now to attorney Tre Lovell over at the Lovell firm in Los Angeles, here to break it all down for us as, of course, the former president has a lot on his plate, juggling both a 24 presidential run as well as a number of legal cases. Tre, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Well, first off, let's, as we jump into all of this, want to kind of get into some of the comments that the former president had made this week during his trial. I found them quite fascinating, specifically when he referred to the judge, essentially the judge saying, "Would you like me to throw you out?" as he was muttering a number of things. And at one point he said, "I'd love you to." Is that type of reaction without actually getting thrown out by a judge normal in a case like this?
Absolutely not. Most judges have complete control of the courtroom, and you act with respect towards the judge, because not only is he making rulings and governing how the trial is going, but you have the jurors there, and you want to give the best impression of a professional, credible, honest, good person. And when you start getting into arguments with the judge, it just doesn't really help you at all. And it's very unusual. Most judges will not take that kind of resentment towards them, especially when it's an open court. So it's very unusual, but it's Trump, so he's getting away with a lot.
And meanwhile, this is a defamation case, but this is not really focused on the initial claim itself. Can you explain that a little bit for us?
Yeah, so the original trial, we'll call it Caroll 1, which happened based on 2022 statements. That case was twofold. It was about sexual battery and defamation around denying the battery. In this case, it's just about the defamation. So it's just based on statements that Trump denied having raped or had sexual battery with Miss Caroll, that she was making it up, and some similar type statements. So this case is just about defamation, and it's just about damages. What the judge had said, listen, the two sets of statements are virtually very similar. And in the first trial, we found that they were defamatory, and they were false. And so we're not going to retry those. In this case, it's just going to be about damages, basically how much Trump owes Caroll for the statements.
And meanwhile, the Trump attorney representing Trump in this case requested a mistrial based on the deletion of a number of tweets and other messages or emails from people in response to this. What do you think the reaction is, or what is the reaction from the judge on that?
Well, he's not going to grant it. Basically, what Trump's attorneys are saying is Ms. Caroll is claiming that she received these death threats, that because of Trump's statements, and that her life, became horrible and very difficult. But she can't produce these emails that consist of the death threats. And in fact, she said she had deleted them because she thought at the time was the best way to kind of get by the situation and move on. So Trump's attorneys have said, hey, listen, you're spoliating evidence. You're getting rid of evidence despite discovery, subpoena, and a request for these. We don't have an opportunity to look at them, determine the credibility, and argue about them, or put cross-examination on them. Thus, it's prejudicing our ability to defend the case, and it should be thrown out. So that's basically the argument they're going to make, but it doesn't really rise to the level of a mistrial. And if there's a lot of other evidence to support the claims, of which Trump's lawyers can cross-examine and go after, that also makes a big difference.
What do you think in the end the total amount could come out to? The initial case, Trump was asked to pay about $5 million. I think it's more than double that now in the second case. Where do you think this all goes?
That's a really good question. You know, the Caroll's attorneys their pitch to the jury is, listen, he won't stop defaming her. And he's not going to unless you inflict financial pain. That's how you get to this guy. And so he's a self-professed billionaire. So you have to have a significant judgment that'll get him to stop. Now, on the flip side of it, you have a judgment from the statements made in 2022, and arguably these statements made back in 2019, are going to take place are going to consist of the damages she had for those 3 years, because anything beyond 2022 would be a double recovery. So you've got kind of an issue there, which is interesting. But I think what Caroll's focusing on is the punitive damages. They're saying, hey, listen, Trump's statements now, his ongoing defamatory statements are premised in spite, ill will, hatred, which is the very basis for a punitive damages claim. And unless he is stopped, she's going to continue to be defamed, and it's never going to end for her. So it could be substantial. It really depends on if the jury thinks that what Trump is doing is really causing a lot of pain, and he's not going to stop. They could go very high in damages. That's a really open question.
And really, my final question with all of this is, do you think that that could prevent the former president from even stopping this type of comments, even if he's forced to pay a sum at the end of this case?
That's such a good question. An interesting thing that nobody really talks about is, since you've had these defamatory statements, or these statements deemed defamatory, adjudicated as defamatory, the plaintiff has within its province to request an injunction that Trump, as part of any judgment, not be allowed to repeat it. And once if the court were to do that, then it would be a part of a court order, and any type of violation he would be held in contempt. So there's additional remedies, but they haven't really gone there, it seems. And so I think maybe that's just kind of leaving it open, to be constantly repeated. But this is as much a political thing as it is a legal thing for Trump, because he is gaining. His supporters are getting more and more entrenched as this trial goes on. The fundraising is doing well off of this. And so he is getting some gain out of this, but I do think there's going to be a point where he's just like, all right, this is just not worth it. I'm getting tagged for too much money. Time to move on.
Tre, anything we didn't ask you? Anything you'd like to add?
Not really. It's going to be very interesting next week to see if he takes the stand. I think it would be very important for him to do it. These cases are a he said, she said, even with respect to damages. And without him, you're kind of missing the he said. So he could get up on the stand and he could really help himself. He could say, listen, I don't have any ill will or spite towards Miss Caroll. I'm defending myself like I would defend anybody who says stuff that I don't believe to be true or is meritless. So it's not personal. I do this with anybody who attacks me. And as well as the fact that, listen, she gained popularity. She gained fame, with the statements and with the book. And this is what she wanted in the first place. She hasn't been hurt. She's probably made more money, has gotten more opportunities with speaking engagements, book deals, things like that, and so she hasn't been harmed at all. So he can get up there and make a good argument for himself. And plus the jury kind of sees his personality, sees him, and that always helps, as long as you're credible, you're honest, humble. That may be tough for him, but it would behoove himself to get up there and speak his mind and speak his side, because if not, it's just going to be a runaway train in one direction.
Defamation expert and attorney Tre Lovell over at the Lovell firm, joining us from Los Angeles today. Tre, thanks so much.
Thank you very much.